Hi, I'm Colin Seale, the founder and CEO of Think Law, where we help educators teach critical thinking to all students. And this week's hashtag Thinking Tuesday video is an amazing one. And if you don't think it's amazing, I need you to make sure you tell me that in a way that's not mean. Because today's topic is 3 ways to disagree without being disagreeable. Now, this is a very timely topic because when we turn on the news or even sports networks, all we see is people that get paid a lot of money to be ridiculously rude to one another. It's like a race to see who can be the most snarkiest. I don't even think Twitter would even exist without snark. And this whole idea of figuring out how we can burn the other person or make the other person look foolish is a big part of what's contributing to this discourse where we're becoming so polarized and having a really tough time even speaking to somebody if we disagree with them even a little bit. So there's a lot of value, particularly in classrooms today, to help students be able to disagree without being disagreeable. The first way that we can help students disagree without being disagreeable is to demand evidence to back up claims. So one of the things that's kind of interesting is on the teacher side, as I've had a chance to go around the country training tons of educators and school leaders and systems leaders on critical thinking and the importance of closing the critical thinking gap, one of the statements that I hear all the time is students don't think, won't think, can't think. And a lot of times I can tell that this is coming out of a deep sense of feeling, right? I feel as though I've been here, I felt this emotion around it, and because of all these feelings that I have, this is what I'm saying. But when you respectfully ask for evidence to back it up, like, do you mean to tell me that students don't think, period? Like, you have evidence that, like, students don't think, period? A lot of times what they realize is, well, you know what? I guess students do think. And sometimes if they're having a tough time coming up with evidence, it helps to come up with evidence on your own. Like, I know a lot of students that get in trouble for all sorts of crazy stuff, but have all of the critical thinking in the world when they're sitting in the principal's office explaining what happened and then picking apart the scene and coming up with all these different scenarios. And they're thinking so creatively about ways to get out of it. So don't tell me they can't think, that they won't think, and that they don't think. You realize that that statement might be a little bit off, and you're actually trying to figure out a way to unleash that thinking in your classroom. Second, a powerful way to get students to disagree without being disagreeable is to ask the question, what would the world look like if? So in one of the sample Think Law lessons that we have on our website, www.thinklaw.us, it's a case that involves a 5-year-old boy who sees his aunt about to sit down in a chair, and right before she sits, he pulls out the chair, she falls, breaks her hip, and has $11,000 in medical injuries. And this lady decides to sue her own 5-year-old aunt for battery. You have so many different emotions when you hear about this crazy lawsuit about how she can actually even prove what happened here, what kind of motivation she must have, or what kind of story might be going on behind the scenes here. But if we were able to take a question like this or any problem that's similar for someone that has a strong feeling of like, this is completely outrageous, there is no way a 5-year-old boy should be liable for this. Asking a question like, what would the world look like if it was okay to go around pulling out chairs on people, they get seriously hurt, but they couldn't recover because of their age? Versus, what would the world look like if it was okay to go around suing 5-year-olds for practical jokes that go wrong? With the understanding that neither world is ideal, but you have to figure out which world makes the most sense to live in, we're now asking students to step back and actually have a much deeper conversation that goes beyond the dispute that might be right in front of them, which makes it much easier to disagree without being disagreeable. Last but not least, there's a really important question that not only helps students disagree without being disagreeable, but helps folks to really develop a lot more empathy and compassion for the person that they might be having this disagreement with. The question is, why do you feel so strongly about this issue? I feel very strongly about the issue of coming up with sensible immigration policy that recognizes the humanity of people that live in our country and have lived here for a long time and just want to have a path to be hardworking citizens that contribute to our world like they've already been contributing. Why do I feel so strongly about this? Because I learned really not that long ago that my family, who's all from Barbados, all came here through a really interesting path. And it turns out that a lot of Caribbean families actually had this same exact path. Well, my grandmother on my mom's side was a mom of 7. Her husband had died. They didn't really have a lot of money, so she came for the opportunity. And when she showed up in the airport with her passport and papers and visa, they presumed, okay, no way she's going to leave 7 kids at home. But she did. And she worked. Her and my other grandmother on my dad's side both had the same story of working in someone's house in Long Island and eventually being able to sponsor their kids to come one by one. And when I say work, my grandmother on my father's side explained just how dreadful it was, how horrible she was treated, how she was really only given enough money to have car fare to go to church on Sunday and come back to this home in Long Island. And every time she would be on the train, she would always have this thought of, I'm not sure that I want to go back and deal with this kind of treatment. And when I think about that, when I think about like what that meant, when I think about the opportunities that have come from my aunts and uncles and my mom, when I'm thinking about what that means for my cousins, it's hard for me to not have the stance that it's going to be extremely welcoming to make sure that folks who are in this country, whatever their formal documentation status is, have a path to actually be able to meaningfully contribute. And when you know that that's how I feel, when you understand that that's where I'm coming from, it's going to be hard for you actually to disagree with me in a manner that will be disagreeable. You might have other challenges with what I have to say, with different technical aspects of the way this might work, and you might have some even valid concerns about what this sort of policy might mean in terms of our global or domestic priorities. But if you want to disagree without being disagreeable, and you're demanding evidence, you're asking these questions about what would the world look like, and you're actually seeking to understand by asking the other person, why do you feel so strongly about this issue? We're getting closer and closer to a world where we're going to be able to say that critical thinking is no longer a luxury good. So thank you so much for your time, and I look forward to having you all visit our website at www.thinklaw.us and following us on Twitter at thinklawus. Take care, and for more information about critical thinking and to be part of our discussion, please join our Critical Thinking Champions Facebook group, where we're going to have tons of amazing dialogues and conversations that will help you implement much more critical thinking in your instruction. Take care.